When it comes to what I'm seeing in the trends with a lot of young Christians, Eve thought was going to make her wise, and it did not. This is how and where I think the church could be more influential when it comes to... Hey y'all, hey, it's your girl Quay. Welcome back to the Heaven in Mind channel, where we imagine, inquire, and investigate topics around heaven, Jesus, and real life in Him. Hey y'all, can we talk about Eve being deceived in the garden? Because there's something that I've always wondered about. And I'm also thinking that that is part of the problem that some of these young Christians are also encountering. Okay, so I want to go to Genesis chapter 3, because I always thought that this was interesting. Genesis chapter 3, verse 6, it says, "And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also to her husband with her, and he did eat." Okay, pause. So she looked at the fruit, and what she saw was a tree that she believed was good for food. It was pleasant to the eyes, and it was desired to make one wise. But here's the problem. The tree was called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Now, we know there is difference between knowledge and wisdom. Keep that in mind. Go down to Genesis chapter 3, verse 7. "And when the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons." Okay, so let me run that back. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil, Eve thought was going to make her wise, and it did not. What it did do was open them up to more information. What information did they get? They were naked. Wisdom requires you to know what to do with your nakedness, why you're naked, and God's plan for why y'all ain't got no clothes on. Wisdom requires that. All they got was the information, which is what the tree was all about. Information. It's the information about the knowledge of good and evil. But what they did not get was a deeper understanding about the way in which God was doing things. They did not know how to now handle guilt and shame. Those kinds of things come from wisdom, not just knowledge. You can know that guilt is about not doing the things you should have done, and you feel guilty about that. You can know that shame is about feeling like I am a problem. Not that I've done something I shouldn't do, but I am a problem. I am broken. I am defective. You can know that and still not know what to do with that. You can know that grace is when you get what you don't deserve, and that mercy is when you don't get what you do deserve. But if you don't understand how grace and mercy works in the life of a believer, then you can still walk around with guilt and shame. So what Eve and Adam did not get was wisdom. They got more knowledge. When it comes to what I'm seeing in the trends with a lot of young Christians, is the fact that they have a lot of information, they don't have wisdom. The Bible says, if any of you lack wisdom, to ask of God, who gives it liberally to all. Wisdom comes from God. That's how come Eve could not get it from the tree. It was the tree of knowledge of good and evil, not the tree of wisdom. They had to go to God to get that wisdom. A lot of the young people that we're dealing with and that we're seeing right now coming up in the information age have a lot of information. They have a lot of knowledge, but they do not have wisdom. Why? Because wisdom comes from God. And I said this in the last video, and I'll say this again. This is how and where I think the church could be more influential when it comes to Come, let's talk about your knowledge and let's help you get wisdom to know what to do with it. If the church would move from just giving knowledge and information to engaging young people with the information that they have and that they're getting from social media and TikTok and all of that, and then say, hey, if you don't know what to do with this, let's talk about it and let's see if we can't help you get some wisdom. That's where I think the church could really do a lot of good in the life of young believers. But I think it's the same problem that started with Eve in the garden. You thought you were going to be wise, and all you got was more knowledge, but you didn't get any more wisdom. They had no idea why they were naked. They just knew that they were naked. That's the difference between knowledge of good and evil and wisdom. So I just kind of want to throw that out. I'll see y'all in the next video.